The old superstitions, the herbalists, my great uncle George taught me. My Aunt Mary mentioned it. She would talk some. My grandmother, old superstition, they called them, but as I got older, I think it's more to it than what they disclaim it, people do. About herbals and making a wildcat whistle and making fish traps, fish baskets, how to catch a fish, and told me about fish traps and how to weave. I seen cane baskets woven. My great-grandmother, she was dead 2 months before I was born, but she made baskets. She made cane basket, white oak basket, and pine straw basket, and used mulberry bark to tie the straws off and make it any shape you want. It was tight. And she would use hickory bark, the inner bark of the hickory tree and of the mulberry. And they stayed there for years. It hadn't been too many years ago I seen one she made, and the people wouldn't sell it to me. I gave them anything in the world for the pine straw basket. My great-grandmother died 2 months before I was born in 1936. She had no proof of any white blood in her veins. She was extremely dark, had beautiful skin, black eyes, black hair with gray in it. Her mother was Mary Jacobs. Her grandfather was John Jacobs on the Eastern Creek Tribal Road. Her mother was John Jacobs' wife was Mary Ann. Mary Ann was born, as near as we can find out by the looks of her age, in the 1790s or extreme early 1800s. Mary, and then Mary Ann married Joe Walls. He lived in the Choctaw country on the Natchez Trace. He had to be an Indian to reside there, but it was a Creek and Choctaw intermixture. And you'll find the names today tied up with the Houma Nation in Louisiana. Never liked associating with the white people. That's where I take my militants from. My uncle taught me well. They was Louisiana tribe. Some say they were the Choctaw red crawfish people. And they migrated as whites approached in on them. And they began to speak French. The Houma Nation speak French today. Some of the old Mobile and trade language. They forgot their own language, but they're trying to bring it back. I was asked to go to Louisiana to help bring the old language back to the Houma people. I know about how it is spoken along most of the Indians along the Gulf Coast in Louisiana and Mississippi spoke Choctaw. It was a Choctaw dialect because they was a member of the Choctaw-Chickasaw family. They was wedged right in between the two tribes. They're very warlike to the Choctaw and Chickasaw one time united and wiped the Houmas out. And the part of the tribe that left and went further down into Mississippi, down toward Louisiana, Baton Rouge, they ended up in past New Orleans on the Gulf Coast. They're there today, and they're a prosperous tribe. They had new bloodlines from French and other Indian tribes, and they done real good for themselves. And that's where some of my family went. And one, his name was Ernest De Filippo, a French Indian. His mother was a Walls, off of the Natchez Trace. It's on the map. I can show you the map with it on it, where they were at. I knew that long ago, that they had lived on the Natchez Trace many years ago. Allies of the French, always been faithful to the French. And there's some walls also on the final Eastern Creek roll of people who was paid off that was related to me. Little segments of them I have found that's Indian. The Jacobs, the blood was good, of Creek blood. I have the tribal roll here with John Jacobs on it. John Jacobs got a land grant that was taken away from him here in Alabama. Under the Indian Removal Act, those who wish to remain behind somewhere in Chambers County, Alabama, to the Georgia border. I tried to find it. Everything gets lost, put aside when I get there years ago. I'm going back. I'm going to get it done, find it. But the settlement of the 1814 Fort Jackson Treaty, that done away with all any land claims. But I think it can open back up. I think it can be opened back up. I didn't want to reveal this, but about time I do. This could be opened back up. You can't be the heir to property. This is a federal grant to stay behind here in Alabama. Mm-hmm. I run across another walls right in the part of the country my people come from. Years ago, near where the Pipestone's at. And we're kin. Because some of his folks had the same names as my people. He's real dark-skinned man, extremely dark. He was my cousin or some way. He's tied in. It was warded any creek wanted to stay, pick out a section or 320 acres and stay within the domains of the Creek Nation. There's another family also tied in. They're on our burial lot. Is a Mahan. And Jackson's soldiers married Creek women. And then the offsprings of these 2 or 3 families on the Upper Cahaba come in and they intermarried. And they're good bloodlines. Some of them practically look full blood. I see them today. Every once in a while you see a brother pop out with looking different, more white in him or looking white. Mm-hmm. But I run across all these people in my study, and if you go to your cemetery where your family buried, you look down, you'll see names in there. They just wasn't buried there, just falling dead or dying in that area. They had to be some kin. Because each family had a cemetery, and they had a way to move a body back and forth. They had such thing as arsenic embalming, and it didn't take much to inject into you to preserve you forever. But I want to find John Jacobs' grave. I will find it. Give me time. And his wife is buried in an unmarked grave, but I got her picture here. She lived to be ancient. I got her with some beads, stringing beads in her hand. I got that picture. I'm glad to get it. I have never seen a light skin, none of that family. I've never seen none of my granddaddy's people light skin. My mother's mother had like a black eyes, black hair, just a Japanese looking or light skin. And then she had an uncle, Uncle John. He married a Creole woman. And they lived somewhere down around Slidell, somewhere in that part of Louisiana. I never looked up the family. I went down there, tried to, but nobody knows nothing. The last time I was there, about 7, 8 years ago, I was at St. Tammany Parish. I'm going back to St. Tammany Parish. Those tall pine forests, I'm going in there and hunt people. I don't hunt a cemetery. I'm going to hunt a living person. I don't find them. I want to see the actual people I'm related to down there, and I will see them. The French Indian, Creole, I want them too. French Indian, Creole was here. Spent 3 days and 2 nights here. We talked and talked. And he was a great writer. Now he billed me up as his teacher. And when he was on the French Creole thing, I never revealed that much on Creole, but I don't care if you publish it, as long as you don't say I'm a redneck. And I like it. And that's one reason. My daddy's family, I love my daddy. I liked his brothers, granddaddy. But my granddaddy had a brother named Luther. He had children. He was an old man, married a younger woman. And then my daddies had some brothers and grandchildren. Wasn't nothing but drunks. I mean, they would not go around. Don't care who's at your house, pop a can of beer and go into your house. That's one reason I watched my hand. I didn't want to get into it. I told Robert, said, let's leave this alone. But they're not my type of people. It ain't the Irish in them, it's the sourness in them. That's why. The Irish love whiskey, but they act decent. But these people I don't mess with. I seen a big catfish one time. I told my Uncle George, he's the one who taught me all about the medicine and herbs. He said, I'll show you how to catch that fish. He made a fish basket, about that long, about that wide. He put some watermelons and cantaloupes in it and tied it up in a rag with seeds and all. And when he put it down in the water, as he put it down, he dropped some of them cantaloupe and watermelon seeds, let it filter through the basket. We had that fish that next morning. He said, I catch him. And he caught that fish. We got him out. We didn't weigh him. Catfish about that big around went in there. About that, like that. There was a lot of meat on him. And we got him. I've seen him come up to the water. And then he went back down. Come up to the top. And we caught him. We caught the big turtle, too. I caught him by the tail and like to never got him out of the water. I seen him in a swamp. He showed me how to catch the turtle. And I got him. Once I seen that tail, that was my turtle, after he told me. He cannot bite backwards. As long as you hold him by the tail, pulling him, and then you pull him up here on you, you hold him like this with his belly up against you. That turtle can't bite you. He can't bite down. And he can bite up. He can get the thing over his head, some would bite you. That turtle got a mouth like that. He got that beak coming down. And my mother's people was always good to me. They taught me things. When I was little, I got the handed down clothes from my first cousin. And they all interested in this too. I got some more cousins that's interested in it. I'm very close with my mother's people. And I get out and try to unite them. My job is unite. I don't like this divide and conquer. This tribe divided, that tribe divided, of the same race. I think all Creeks should come under an umbrella of some kind of cooperation. Not to hand out money to each group, but to come by and, like they're having a big dance, go there and enjoy it. But they're not a member of your ground, but they're welcome to come participate in it. And even the ports, Oklahoma, the Coshada, the Alabama Coshada, they should all come as one if they want to attend the dance. And then anybody come there to break it up, they should be escorted off the ground. If they come there drunk, escort them off the ground. And that's the only way you can run the ground. You got to have unity among a people. A divided nation will fall. That's what's wrong with the Creek Nation today. The Civil War came. The Creek Nation divided. The Creek War came. The Creek Nation divided. Red Sticks and the American peaceful Creeks didn't want no war. The Seminoles split up. The Creeks went after them in Florida. Andrew Jackson hired them. Promised them you can stay in your homeland. So many of you can stay if you want to. But when they went down there and come back, their family was done shipped to Mobile Point in the Gulf of Mexico. And that was, many things happened. Divide and conquer. That's the greatest thing of the English ever done. They knew what they were doing. They're good at that, divide and conquer. They divided and conquered other countries they came into contact with to build a great British Empire. It failed. Good riddance. The French come to trade. We come to trade. They were happy people. They'd get in, cut up, and pass wine and rum and things around. Cognac, I guess, they had it to the Indians, and they sat down and married with them. They didn't care. They enjoyed themselves. The English had an ethic rule of mixing with. We don't mix with lower class people. Tut, tut, what they'll say. That's the way the British done. The Englishmen. And they destroyed this country with their isms, their culture, their laws. They have written law, Constitution, Bill of Rights. It's written. It can be interpreted any way you want it interpreted. We don't need that trash here. We need just laws plain, protect people, and do things right. But it's done changed now. It ain't ever going back that way. They ain't going to rewrite it and try to teach it over again. It can be interpreted any way. The old John Jacobs, they always said his name was a Fixico, his last name. He went by that name or his whole name, I don't know. I got that much out. A few Creek words I got from my uncle, remembered. And he told me things. One day at a time, he went to Oklahoma. He wanted to see a green corn. He went there to see it. He did. He got to see it. His brother went and seen it. That was in Oklahoma many years ago. He drove there. Sometimes we're in the 40s or 50s. He went to visit Seminoles in Florida one time. He always wore a hat, something like what I wore, sunk down, had it fixed like that. And he enjoyed it. It was a name, but it became a family name. But that's what he, just Fixico, no last name, no first. He was called that before. And he was somewhere around, maybe he was a fish pond man, I don't know. Some say Coweta, Casita. And the Jacobs, were plenty of them, there's many of them out there in Oklahoma today as Harjos. Just like Tallahassee, that's from Coosa County, Wococoy. There's many creeks here stayed behind. I run into. One was Redmouth. Redmouth stayed here in Coosa County on Hatchet Creek, a tributary of it. I took a map and went to where his house was, and I knew the people where it was. And there's a marker tree there. Come up like that, and like that has a snout on the end. Ancient tree. That thing's that big around. White oak, post oak or something. I have to look at it again. And I found an axe, a handmade axe, hand forged. The blade, you can see where it's a different color steel on both sides, been hand forged in. And the back been busted off. It was made out of wrought iron. It broke, still had some slag in it. I've been there. I think I can really find something out on that too. And those fishers, I'm kin to them. Some of them fishers didn't have a good name. I knew that. I've heard that before. Orally, I heard it. But I'm not telling that Creek blood or what. That's Creek blood. And Josiah Fisher was a white man, married a Creek woman of a Tossie on the Tallapoosa. And I don't get into that either. I'm kin enough. And I've done a lot of study on that. There was a woman told me about Nancy Fisher. Nancy Oakes. Didn't know her husband. I know her husband's name. March Oak. And he was killed trying to run the Spaniards out of the Gulf Coast, fighting with Anglos. And he got killed. They say they were Mexican soldiers in the Spanish army that killed him. I found out that much. And I didn't want my name in the book to record the history. And I knew it from orally, and I was correct. And that happened a long time ago. I knew people who knew people that lived back then. I knew people that told me a lot about people that was born in the 1700s. And one was Mary James Massey, the Frenchman. And see, the French Indian War ain't over to us. We still don't. It's still like to fight it over. I have Frenchmen, Indian, Cajuns, and things all the time I associate with all my life. I know a family of Frenchmen. I know from Missouri, the Rubidoux. I know a family of DeMont from Quebec, Canada, Cubasse, Canada. And the Choctaw and the Alabama language is the same. I was going to teach an Alabama woman, and she was a Baptiste, to speak Choctaw. I said, she got to tell me, I asked her this word in Alabama, this word. I knew this language familiar. I said, thanks for the Choctaw lesson you gave me. I said, I learned something. What did you learn? Fulanchi is French, Spanish. Uncle is English, or Nahola is an American, and he's named after a monster that dwelled in the northern part of the Choctaw Nation, a monster. That's what it meant. That's the name of American, that. Or you could call him Hottok Toby, a white man. If he's decent, I call him a Hottok Toby. But all the screwings and crooks I've ever seen has been the Anglos. I never had no problem in my life with a black man. And they like to sway my mind one time, the Anglos. And they talking about the Anglo-Saxon race. They're gonna mix it up and destroy it. When integration started, they're gonna mix in with a nigger, what they say. That's the words they said. And I sat there listening to that bull crap, and I said, no, I'm not swallowing that. My mother told me, she said, don't pay it no attention, walk away, just ease away. Just act nice and just ease away, and you have no trouble with it. Because they will kill you if you even talk about you pro-black. The white will kill you. They was organized back in them days. Ku Klux Klan, White Citizen Council, and all of that. Different groups of them, too, many groups. I remember Asa Carter wrote about Little Tree and all that. And Asa Carter had blue-black, jet black hair, dark skin. He had Indian blood in him. He was in it for the money. Asa was smart. He wrote all of George Wallace's speeches. And he wrote what the people wanted to hear. That Wallace and And then was something. Asa Carter, they knew how to play the system, got rich at it. Then he went and moved to Arkansas and started writing books, Little Tree and about Indians, Cherokees, and all. But he always associated Cherokee with the Confederate States, which that much white blood, I guess he did. They folk with the Confederate, because Cherokee was divided during the Civil War. The Creeks were divided, the McIntosh fraction, and everything.